All right, today we're cracking open a spiritual classic that's nearly 100 years old but feels like it could have been written yesterday. We're talking about Florence Scovel Shinn's 1925 rulebook, The Game of Life and How to Play It. So, let's just dive right into the core idea. Think about how we usually talk about life. It's a struggle, right? A fight, a constant battle. But Shinn comes along and asks a really provocative question. What if that's completely the wrong way to look at it?
And there it is. That's her whole premise in a nutshell. Life isn't this constant, exhausting fight. It's a game. And like any game, it has rules. For her, it's a great big game of giving and receiving, all governed by spiritual laws.
And the number one most fundamental rule of this game. It's basically the law of sowing and reaping. Whatever you send out into the universe, whether it's through your words, your thoughts, your actions, that is exactly what's going to come back to you. It's like a perfect boomerang. No exceptions. Okay, so if it's a game, how do you actually play to win? Well, Shinn lays out a few key rules, and the very first one is the foundation for absolutely everything else. You have got to master your own mind. Shinn's model of the mind is really interesting. She breaks it down into three parts. You've got your conscious mind, that's us every day, seeing all the problems and limitations. Then you have the superconscious, which she says holds the perfect blueprint for your life. But the real engine here, the powerhouse, is the subconscious. It's just pure power with no direction. It doesn't judge, it just takes orders from our conscious mind and makes them happen. It's an idea you hear echoed later in things like the law of attraction. So how do you control what the subconscious does? You have to control your imagination. And I love this metaphor she uses. Your imagination is like a pair of scissors. And all day long, it's cutting out pictures, cutting out scenes in your mind. And sooner or later, Shinn says, you're going to meet those very creations in the real world. And here's a story from the book that shows just how powerful those scissors can be. Though, fair warning, it's a little unsettling. It's about a woman who, when she was a little girl, had this strange game she loved to play. She would pretend to be a widow, dressing up in black, putting on a veil. Everyone thought it was just a quirky, amusing thing. Well, she grew up, got married, and was deeply in love, and then her husband died suddenly. That picture she had so vividly and consistently cut out with her imagination as a child had been deeply impressed on her subconscious, and eventually it manifested, creating this absolute tragedy. The subconscious, you see, takes every single one of our mental pictures literally. So, if your imagination is the scissors, what gives those pictures their power? What presses them into reality? According to Shinn's second rule, it's our words. Our words are the commands that set the whole thing in motion. This quote really nails it. What we say isn't just idle chatter. Our words are like little decrees. We are constantly, whether we know it or not, making laws for ourselves with the things we say over and over again. Here's a super simple, perfect example of this. The book talks about two people. One guy's always saying, I always miss the car. It pulls out right when I get there. He created a personal law of failure. The other person always said, oh, I always catch my car. It's sure to be there. And she created a law of success. And guess what? For years, they both lived out the exact laws they had spoken into existence. And get this, it's not just about being positive or negative. The subconscious, as Shinn explains it, has absolutely no sense of humor. She tells the story of a woman who was tired of her big house and would always joke, I'm so sick of all this stuff, I wish I lived in a trunk. Well, her subconscious heard that and took it as a direct order. Eventually, she lost her home and ended up in one tiny little room. She had literally joked her way into living in a trunk. Okay, so we've got the mental picture from our imagination and the spoken command from our words. But Shinn says there is a third, absolutely critical piece to this whole puzzle. You have to act. She calls this active faith. And this is not just sitting around and believing something will happen. No, this is the act of preparing for the good thing you've asked for before you see any proof that it's coming. This, she says, is the bridge that gets you from asking to actually receiving. So here's the bottom line. If you ask for success but you prepare for failure, you are going to get the thing you prepared for. That preparation, that action, is what signals your true belief to your subconscious mind. You have to act as if it's already yours. This story is a fantastic example of what she means. There was a woman who desperately needed an apartment during a massive housing shortage. Her logical mind was telling her, don't buy new blankets, you might not even find a place. But she said to herself, no, I'll dig my ditches by buying the blankets. And that single act of faith, preparing for the apartment she didn't have, somehow opened the door, and miraculously, she got one.
So if active faith is the key to winning the game, what's the one thing that can make you lose? Shinn is crystal clear about this. Your only real enemy is fear. And she has this brilliant definition for it. Fear is just inverted faith. It's putting your faith in a bad outcome instead of a good one. The only solution is to replace that fear with faith.
All right, so let's say you do it. You manage to master your mind, you command your words, and you act with total faith. What's the prize? What does it actually look like to win the game of life?
Shinn calls the prize the square of life. It's this picture of a complete, fulfilled existence, and it's built on 4 pillars: vibrant health, true wealth and abundance, deep and unconditional love, and finally, perfect self-expression, finding and doing the unique work you were put on this earth to do.
And here's the final twist, the beautiful conclusion to her whole philosophy. These 4 things, health, wealth, love, and purpose, they aren't things you have to go out and fight for or get. She says they are perfect ideas that already exist inside your superconscious mind, that divine blueprint. Your only job is to recognize they're already yours, and then use your mind, your words, and your faith to let them manifest in your life.
Which brings us to our final thought. Writing way back in 1925, Shinn compared the subconscious to a sensitive phonograph record, saying it impresses every single thought and word onto it. She told people to smash their old bad records of lack and failure and create new, beautiful ones. Her message, really, is that we are the ones creating our own reality. So the question for us, almost a century later, is a simple one. What records are you cutting for your own life right now?